Hi everyone, I'm going to tell you 5 reasons why I chose to live in Georgia, the country, and I'd really like to hear your thoughts about this. The first and big reason why I moved to Georgia is because of tax reasons. Now, I'm going to have to tell you a story about why. So way back in 2015, I started an Amazon FBA business. Nowadays, FBA businesses are all the rage and there's lots of information about them online, but in 2015, it was still quite a new concept. So for those of you who don't know what an Amazon FBA business is, it's simply selling things on Amazon. And what I would do was I would see a product that I wanted to sell. I would find a manufacturer in China or India. I would get maybe 1,000 units made. I would then ship it over to America, over to the Amazon FBA warehouses, and Amazon online would sell that for me. And if it sold, I would make a little bit of profit. Sounded pretty simple, and it was a big reason why I wanted to start this type of business, because it was something that I could do from my computer. I could be anywhere in the world, and it was something that I think that I was able to do with my experience, with my skill set. So I started this business because I had this dream to become location independent. I didn't have to be in any specific city, any specific country. I could be anywhere in the world at any time and still run my business and make money. That was the dream. So this Amazon FBA business was, I thought, a perfect little way to make that dream a reality. Well, how does Georgia relate to all of this? Well, I have to kind of tell you a little bit of my backstory so it makes some sense. So for about my first year of running this FBA business, I was still based in Australia and I was making a lot of mistakes and I was spending a lot of money on advertising and really not making any money. But by 2016, I was starting to get the hang of it. I was starting to make some sales and I was starting to see that my business was becoming quite profitable. And I wanted to double down and I wanted to launch more and more products. So I was spending like all of my profit on new inventory and new products. And I definitely didn't pay myself. My numbers looked a little bit like this. I would buy a product for say $3 and then I would have to get it shipped over to America, which would cost about say $2. And then Amazon would take out their pretty big fees, which was about $7. And if I sold this product for around about $20, which is what I was aiming for, I would make that $8 profit. But with that profit, I would then need to reorder that same inventory again, and I would also want to launch a new product as well. So because of this, my bank balance was always really low because I would always be spending that profit into reordering the inventory, reordering the next product, and my bank balance just never really grew. Now in the accounting world, the buying of inventory and buying even of these new products, this is actually called buying an asset. And I was always purchasing these new assets. But in Australia, company tax is actually calculated based on profit, which is your revenue minus your expenses. I was spending all my money on inventory, but inventory isn't counted as an expense, it's actually counted as an asset, which doesn't factor into revenue minus expenses. So this was creating this really big problem for me because I was on paper looking like I was making a lot of money and having this big profit, but my bank balance wasn't reflecting that at all. So my bank balance was only ever hovering around about $15,000 because I'd be making some money, but then I'd be spending on it in inventory. I thought quite normal for a business. So I had projected for my 2017 financial year that I was going to make around about $100,000 profit on paper, not in my bank account, but on paper. Because of that $100,000, I had to be taxed on that, which is 30% in Australia for corporate tax. Now, this was devastating for me because a $30,000 tax bill was coming in the future, yet my bank balance was always only hovering around about that $15,000 mark. I didn't really have the money to pay the $30,000 tax bill that I was going to get. So I was stuck in a little bit of a dilemma. I didn't want to pay this $30,000 tax bill, but I really wanted to grow my business. So I didn't really know what to do. So this is now where Georgia comes in. Now, compared to Australia, Georgia has a really simple tax system, but it isn't a tax haven. I still have to pay company tax and personal tax if I'm a Georgian resident, but I only have to pay tax on the money that I make inside of Georgia. Therefore, the money that I make, say, in America or in another country. So I thought I'd just move to Georgia and get away from Australia and get away from that big potential tax bill. Now, this whole thing really wasn't easy, and I had to get legal advice and I had to make sure everything was done correctly. I really appreciate the help of Nomad Capitalist, which was a business that helped me organize all of this and even told me about Georgia in the first place. So Big shout out to the guys over at Nomad Capitalist. You did a great job helping me organize all of this and getting me, in the first place, getting me to come to Georgia. And if you're looking to do anything similar, please get professional advice. Don't try to do it on your own. Hey, so if you like my story so far, please also like the video for the YouTube algorithm. And if you can leave a comment, I might be able to explain things in greater detail if you have any questions. So the first reason I set sail for Georgia was because of tax. Now the next 4 reasons I only discovered when I actually got to Georgia. Now reason number 2 for me is there's a bit of a cool factor about being here in Georgia. So there was something cool about telling all my friends and my family that I was moving to Georgia, the country, and that I knew that they thought I was crazy. My personality is a little bit like this, and I know a lot of other people are like this too, so being different and being unique, it makes it kind of feel good inside. Okay, maybe it feeds my ego a little bit being different and being a little bit crazy, but I'm just definitely the person who enjoys being different to everybody else. So moving from Australia to Georgia, it really did appeal to me and my personality. So the third reason is that Georgia is so cheap. I had just come from Australia where going to an average restaurant was going to cost me $20, $25 for a meal. I could forget about buying a house in Australia. Housing prices are insane. And even Uber's expensive in Australia. Everything just seemed to be crazy expensive in Australia when I compared it to going to Georgia and living in Georgia. The average meal in Georgia, even in the touristy areas, is only going to cost like $7. Buying apartments, buying houses, you're not going to break the bank. I even bought an apartment here in Georgia for $70,000. And in Georgia, that's actually kind of expensive compared to back home in Australia where $700,000 is kind of average. So there's something really satisfying about earning US dollars or earning euro and then spending lari, and that just gave me so much more buying power, and the arbitrage between US dollars and lari just got me so much more. I love that feeling that my money was going so much further than it would in Australia. Now, the fourth reason that I've mentioned in previous videos before are the business opportunities here in Georgia. I've always loved the idea of improving a developing country and bringing ideas from, say, the Western world, like Australia, America, England, Germany, and bringing them into a country that doesn't have those services yet. I just think there's a lot of money to be made bringing successful business ideas from these Western countries and putting them in a country that it doesn't exist yet. I just think there's a lot of money to be made. And I think another cool thing about Georgia is the ease of doing business. Now, the World Bank releases like an ease of doing business index every year. And as you can see, Georgia is number 7th in the entire world of ease of doing business. So the countries above, as you can see, are all Western countries, but even the United Kingdom and Norway aren't as good as Georgia. Georgia, as you can see, is especially good at the ease of starting a business and the ease of registering property. It ranks really highly in these 2 areas. And GDP in Georgia has also been going up. The country is changing. It's becoming more westernized and it's becoming more of a modern society. And I see that as a great opportunity for everybody. And more people are discovering the beauty of this country. And my 5th reason for choosing to live in Georgia is how cheap it is to hire staff here. Like, you want to hire somebody to help run your business? Great, that's like $400 a month. You want to get a cleaner to come and clean your apartment every second day? That's like $5 a day. So you want someone to come in and build a dining table for you to your specific requirements? No problem. Materials and labor, probably like $200. Like, I wanted to build a stand-up desk so I could work out and I didn't have to sit down all day. And I got it to my exact heights. I got it delivered. It cost me $100. Now, although finding quality staff is still hard, just like everywhere else, you can afford to make this type of mistake because it's so cheap. Okay, so let's compare. So let's hire a receptionist in the United Kingdom and let's hire a receptionist here in Georgia. Oh, I'll keep everything in US dollars so it's easy to compare. The receptionist's monthly salary in the United Kingdom, $2,500. Here in Georgia, just $400. Your UK receptionist is going to take 5 weeks off a year. Here in Georgia, probably 2 at the most. In the United Kingdom, you have to deal with trade unions. In Georgia, that doesn't exist. And you don't have to worry about maternity or paternity leave. You don't have to worry about giving notice to your employees if you want to fire them. Now, although I do think it is best practice to treat your employees really well and look after them because you want them to be happy while they're with you. And even if they're not with you, you never know who they might know in the future and maybe you need them again. So I always think it's best practice to look after your employees and treat them well. $400 a month is, for a receptionist, is actually quite a good wage here in Georgia. If you were to bump it up to say $500, they'd probably love you. And if you didn't get the hire right and it's the wrong person for your business, then you can just fire them, and there's no paperwork, there's no worries about paying them out for their holidays or anything like that. It's done. So with no administration, you can just get on with running your business. Let me just also add that business here in Georgia is about building relationships. So you do still have to treat those employees really, really well. Don't just fire them for no reason. Give them reasons, make them understand why you're firing them, treat them really well, because relationships here in Georgia are going to be really important. And it's just good business to be nice and not make enemies. Tax was the big reason I came here 4 years ago. But the cool factor, how cheap everything is, all the business opportunities, and how cheap it is to hire staff, they're the things that kept me here. Now, before you go, please subscribe to my channel and just tell me what you think. Am I crazy?